Welcome to Leadership Moments.
In every great leader's life, there are pivotal moments that shape their character, test their resilience, and awaken their vision.
Together, we'll uncover the invaluable lessons hidden within these transformative moments.
So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Robin Berlinsky. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Engaging Creative Minds, which is a 7-figure nonprofit based in Charleston, South Carolina. She is the founder and CEO of the Abundant nonprofit. Robin is a lifelong educator and successful nonprofit leader and coach who is on a mission to empower more nonprofits, program providers, and teachers to transform their energy and exceed their goals so that they can make a greater impact. She teaches education and nonprofit courses at the College of Charleston and is a host of the podcast Energy Matters with Robin Berlinsky. And I can tell you that energy does matter. And Robin is fast becoming someone that I who advises me and I spend time with. So Robin, fantastic to have you with us. Hey Robin, it's so fantastic to have you with us today. And I'm so excited for our audience because they are in for a real treat.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So I've got a whole bunch of questions for you, but I want to start off right with just your journey. Has not been, I always talk about, we don't have a linear journey, most of us, right? And you've had a lot of twists and turns, with the encounter with the photographer and then your nonprofit and of course how we met. So can you just tell for our audience a little bit about your story and how it has evolved over the years?
Sure. So I was that little girl who played with dolls, but I taught them in school. Like I had a little chalkboard and I graded their papers. And so when I graduated from high school, my guidance counselor said I should go into computer science because that's where the money was. So I did for 2 years and I was on academic probation and I hated every minute of it. So that was like my first pivot in life, right? Like I listened to someone else when I should have stayed true to my passion and my heart and my soul. So I went and transitioned into education. And though my journey has been not straight, it has always been in education. So I have never swayed from that, but how I did it did sway. So I started in the classroom teaching first grade. Then I transitioned to the children's museum world, which is still spaces of learning. Yeah. And then I moved into where I am now, which is an education-based nonprofit. So it has always been education, but it has not been a straight path. You are correct about that.
Well, and you took a little bit of a pivot there, but realizing that it wasn't who you were, you came back.
It was painful. It was painful to take physics and all the classes I didn't enjoy. There was no joy. It was a daily grind to go to these classes. And not only did I not enjoy it, I was not good at it. I didn't even try. So I was failing. It was this whole cycle. It was like a downward spiral. Mm-hmm. And it again goes back to not following my heart, going and listening to someone else who I thought was much smarter. I mean, this is a guidance counselor. They're supposed to guide you. That's their job. So I was like, oh, well, they must know. They must know more than I do about myself. And clearly that was not the case.
Yeah. Well, I love that because I think, we always talk about following your heart and doing things that you feel passionate about. But a lot of people get caught up in this, well, I'm going to go do what other people are telling me what to do. And I love the fact that, you did that, but you realized really quickly that that was not going to be what was going to make you happy long term.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting when you're in it, just like today in everyday moments, when you're in them, they feel much bigger than they really are. And at the time, believe it or not, I thought I was too old to shift. Shifting to another career at 21 years old, I felt like, oh, it's too late to do that. I'll be with freshmen. I'll be taking education 101 with freshmen. And I'm too old for that. So, looking back, I'm so grateful that I didn't listen to that inner voice that told me I was too old to switch a major, because who knows where I would be right now. But it's when you're in it, it does feel bigger than it truly is.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that's just a great lesson for our audiences, though, is one, you're never too old to pivot, and follow your passions.
Oh, and I love that you said that, because I turned 60 last year, and that was my moment where I declared to anyone that would listen, this is my third act, you guys. I'm just getting started. So let's go. And there were those moments, I will be honest, when the birthday was coming up, where it was like, oh, you should start winding down. You're too old. You have those voices that don't leave us. But it's funny how I started my pivoting, early in my 20s as, you're too old at what, 21? And now I'm 60 and my voice is still saying you're too old. So I choose not to listen yet again.
Listen, I love that you just said that, because I have seen so many examples of people in their 70s and the 80s and the 90s, still doing gym, or, still, doing, skydiving or whatever, right? And I think there's this perception that life stops when you reach a certain age. And that is so not true. That is so not true. I just spoke to someone today, literally, who said, hey, I always loved instruments and music, guitar, and that I started last year, that I'm going to take that up. And I said, I'm so glad you said that, because I thought I was the only crazy one that decided, like, when, that I'm going to take something up that when I wanted to do when I was in my 20s. And you've just, given us that another example of it's never too late.
It's never too late. In fact, I feel more confident because I've gone through so many experiences in my first and second acts.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of leadership, and I've seen what works and I've seen what doesn't work. And so I feel like I'm coming into my third act fully equipped to navigate and to respond and to lead from a space of experience and really understanding that, that I know what I'm doing. So it feels really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so fantastic. So I'm going to pivot, because there's something I do want to spend some time talking about. You've created a very unique culture, right, at Engaging Creative Minds. And I've read quite a lot about it. It's called the woohoo spirit. I love that, the woohoo spirit. I just love that. So talk to me a little bit about, what does that mean for you, first of all? And how does that translate to the organization, the culture, and, how you will show up every day?
Yes, this is my favorite question, because, I do love the woohoo spirit. So as we all know, perception is reality, right? And we have a decision in any instance to respond in a certain way. So at Engaging Creative Minds, we approach everything with woohoo and positivity. So spaces that are historically or normally not woohoo spaces, like conflict, right? No one wants to have conflict, making mistakes that are huge mistakes that are tough to admit to. Those kinds of spaces we lean into with gusto. So, for example, what I love is my staff, we say to people, we talk behind each other's backs, and people get like really shocked about that. Like, why are you admitting that? That's a horrible thing to say out loud. But what I mean by that is, like, think about when you donate to a nonprofit or an organization and you donate anonymously. That is like the most beautiful gift you can give.
Yes.
So when you give a compliment anonymously, when you go behind someone's back, a coworker's back, and you go to the leader and you say, Tracy Ann just did the most amazing thing. She filled in for me when I had to take my child to the dentist unexpectedly. And I am so grateful. And I wanted you to know that. That's a beautiful thing, because this employee wasn't saying it in front of you, wasn't doing it to show that you're friends or that she supports you. It was done truly in an anonymous fashion. So, and I don't tell the staff when that happens. And what I'll do is periodically reach out and say, hey, 5 people talked about you this week. Way to go. Keep it up. And we, woohoo, people are talking about you. The other thing we woohoo are mistakes, because we hear it all the time, make mistakes, but don't make the same mistake twice. Learn from your mistakes. We know all that. We've heard it. We see it. What we do is we truly mean it. And what we do is when something happens, and recently we did a doozy of a mistake, we actually paid one of our summer high school interns twice. So he got 2 checks this week, 2 checks the following week. We didn't pick it up, which we should have, right?
Right.
So what we do is we immediately go to the student, we explain what happened, and then internally we say no blame, no shame. Thank goodness we made this mistake now. For, a student, we can rectify it. We found it quickly. What happened? Again, no blame, no shame. How are we fixing this? What system are we going to put in place so this does not happen again? And then we reward the person who said, I own it, I did it, let's go. Like, again, no blame, no shame. And then lastly, I'll share the conflict resolution, which is based on Brene Brown, right? Leaning into the rumble. We'll actually, pre-COVID, when we were all working in an office, would literally play that song, like, Are You Ready to Rumble? And we would play it loud and everybody would look around like someone's about to rumble. But it was fun and it was joyful in the spirit of the organization is better when we can come together and discuss misunderstandings, miscommunications, and ultimately the only winner in a rumble is the organization. So no one on our staff thinks they need to stay up the night before planning their defense or finding a way to win, because no one wins except the organization. And those are the things we celebrate. And it really works because my staff will send me cards literally on a random day, thanking me for giving them a job, like thanking me for allowing them to work in this beautiful space. And that tells you that the staff is truly loyal and really committed to the work. And when they're happy, everyone else is happy.
Yeah. Robin, I really love that. And I think for our audience, there's so much to be learned from that, right? As leaders, it is our responsibility to ensure that we are operating in a healthy environment. Patrick Lencioni talks about what the advantage is for organizations. And that advantage is the competitive edge of healthy people, healthy team, healthy conversations, right? There's nothing wrong with, as you put it, if someone makes a mistake, owning it, learning from it, embracing it, and making sure it doesn't happen again. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, something happened, you frustrated me, or, I don't think you're showing up the way you should be showing up in this particular situation, or that you're not delivering the work that we're intending, but you're bringing it up as let's talk about it. Let's resolve it. It's in the spirit of what is your intention? Our intention is to make us better, right? And I love that. I love that. There's so much to be learned from that. That conflict resolution one really touched me, because I think that happens so often. And it creates dissension in the ranks, anxiety, terrible anxiety, right? And people already have so much stress. So that's the last thing you want for them.
Right.
So I love that there's so much for our audience to learn from that. That in itself should be a book, Robin.
Oh, there you go. Another piece of it I love, and this is kind of an incidental benefit of rumbling with love, is that you never have to go to bed wondering if someone's upset, wondering if you should have said something differently, or wondering, because that's our respect for each other. If anyone were upset, they would have rumbled with you. So if you were not rumbled with, you're fine, go to sleep. And that's really comforting to the staff. Like, they will literally say to me the next day, like, I almost went down that road of questioning. And I thought, no, they would have said something, because that's our culture.
Well, you're forming trust.
Exactly.
So you're forming a culture of trust and respect. And that's where most cultures fall down. I really, really love that, because I think to myself, how many people go to bed worried, wake up worried?
There's enough to worry about with our bills we have to pay, picking up
Totally.
dry cleaning. You don't have to worry about your coworkers.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that. I really, really love that. What a fantastic, fantastic lesson for everybody. Now, the next subject is about, I'm going to frame it up as perception of the nonprofit world from two angles. Okay. From a corporate angle, it's like, oh, well, nonprofits don't make money. I'll just leave that there. Okay. And then there's this, from a nonprofit perspective, the mindset of the scarcity, right? Right. Scarce. I know you call it sort of scarcity to abundance, right?
yes, yes.
Please share with all of us your point of view on this, because I think it's very, very important.
It is very important. And it's interesting. Remember in high school and middle school when you would have like debates? And I never wanted to, I was afraid of that. I didn't want, this is the one thing, like I would get on the stage and debate for hours. Like I get so excited. So yes, to all that, you know, when I coach nonprofits, what I say to them is before we dive into your nonprofit specifically, let's take a step over here and let's look at the for-profit world. Let's, for just a few moments, talk about the really cool spaces that just attract customers. And it's the spaces that are like the Starbucks and Pike Place Market in Seattle and the Varsity outside Georgia Tech in Atlanta, where they're selling something simple, like the Varsity sells hot dogs, very simple. But when you walk through that door, it's like an experience. They're yelling at you and there's merchandise and there's energy. It's like you go to Pike Place Market, they sell fish,
Yeah.
but they throw it at you and they record it and they're the energy and they wrote a book and you're going to buy your fish from them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Starbucks. Back in the day, we bought coffee. Coffee was coffee. There was nothing sexy about coffee. Suddenly, Howard Schultz goes to Italy, and suddenly we have baristas and lattes and cappuccinos, and people gravitate to those spaces. So I take nonprofit leaders down that road for a little while to say, what is it about your nonprofit that by itself draws people to you? You want to draw not just funding, but the richness of advocates and volunteers and strong board members and staff members and all the people that build a nonprofit up so it can operate in abundance. And we talk about that first because, like you said, perception's reality. And there's this moment where we share like vulnerability is so beautiful for anywhere you work because you want to be real. But then there's pathetic, right? Like you don't want to be so like, please, we need money. We're going to go out of business. You're not on the corner with a cup, you know, like, no, but you can be vulnerable. Like we have 10,000 students on a waiting list and they're so excited. And we have this opportunity to serve them. Won't you join? That's very different. So it's a mindset moment.
Yeah.
And we do first look to the for-profit world to see how we can elevate the perception of their nonprofit and ultimately take them from scarcity to abundance. Because like you said, and like I say, nonprofit is not a business model. It's an IRS term. I don't know who came up with it. I would love to know why they chose nonprofit, because you can end the year with a surplus of funding. In fact, the IRS encourages you to end your fiscal year with a surplus because that helps you provide programs that are unfunded or underfunded. Now you have this surplus to serve. So there is that mindset shift that, I would love to get on stage and debate this with anyone who thinks nonprofit means scarcity and lack, you know, and just operating from that pathetic state of please give.
Yeah.
And I want to share one more thing that really is important is I tell them to think about, like, pretend you work for me, pretend I am your boss. And I come to you and I say, I would like to offer you either a salary increase that's significant, it will change your life, or you can work 2 days a week, right? We're going to give you a 5-day weekend and you get to, and your workload will not pile up. It's not like you're going to take those days off and regret it. We're going to take care of everything. You work 2 days at your current salary, or we're going to give you a significant raise. And when I ask this question, it is a 50-50 split. Some people, there's no right answer.
Yeah.
Some people, all in, please, the money.
Yeah.
Some people, I'll take the time, right? So when we think about time and money in the nonprofit world, we need to think of them differently. We need to think of them as equals, because they are.
Yeah.
So when I, as a nonprofit leader, speak to a funder, I speak to them as equal. We are equal. We are partners. We are collaborators on this mission together. You will provide the funding. I will provide the time. And together, we will create this most beautiful, impactful program, experience, whatever it is, but it is equal. So that mindset shift for a lot of nonprofit leaders is huge, because for some reason, somewhere along the way, we lost sight of the value of time and we put all the value in the money. And suddenly the people with the money held the power. And the funders were able to make decisions about the organization, the structure, the programs. And that is just not true. The organization itself that's putting in the time is just as valuable. And so those two things are really important with the scarcity and the mindset piece to keep nonprofits moving and operating in abundance.
I really love that. And I love your example, because it's very interesting when you look at the contrast of you need both, and they are both as valuable, right? Those that are in the nonprofit, doing the work, providing the experience, and providing the impactful programs that make other people, their lives in whatever way, make their lives better, right? And yet you still do need funding, of course, but it's of equal value. I love that.
Yeah.
And I really, truly believe that.
It really is. And, I've been in the nonprofit world for 30 years, and I have been able to work in 7 figures of nonprofit leadership. So that is a testament that this does work, that there is this equal value, that you cannot lose sight of the value of time.
Yeah, 100%. So talking about 30 years in nonprofit and leadership, I want to now talk about you. Okay. So, you are a strong advocate for authentic leadership, particularly for women. Okay. I want to get your views, specifically when you think about our audience. Our audience, we're trying to educate and help and support leaders from all walks of life. Okay. I'd love you to share with them your thoughts on what does authentic leadership look like.
I would love to. And the only thing that pops into mind is to never outsource your power. Authentic leadership is knowing where you stand, what you stand for, and not letting someone else give you their judgment on it. I think of it like if I'm shopping for shoes, or like workout shoes, and I don't buy the Nikes, right? I choose not to buy the Nikes for some reason. It's not because they're not high quality. It's not because they're not designed well. It's because I have a reason. It's the wrong color, whatever the reason. Nike doesn't make a decision. They don't watch the surveillance in the store and say, oh, Robin Berlinsky did not buy Nikes. They must suck. Let's fix it. Let's go out of business, right? Too often we hear one thing and think that is true, that we need to change, or we need to stop doing what we're doing. And I learned this the hard way. I did listen early on. I have worked for several male leaders who did not value anything that I brought to the table. And it was clear in the way they, like, if I brought something up, they would, not invite me to the next meeting. And I never allowed that to judge anything about me. I just saw that as their insecurity, that they didn't feel comfortable with me in the room. And I also wasn't going to fight that. I just made mental notes, and I can remember the exact phrasing I used. I would always say, and I don't know why I said this, but I said, when I'm the king, this will be the way we do it. And I started to share that with a few of my colleagues, and they would be like, well, when you're king, I'm coming to your village. Like, I want to live in your kingdom. And it became a beautiful, fun little way to get through all that. And so then when I moved over and I began working at Engaging Creative Minds, and I truly was the king, I had another male who said to me, he was struggling with what he called rah-rah, like you're too rah-rah. We need more results-driven leadership.
Yeah.
I said, first of all, it's woohoo. It's not rah-rah. So let's get that really clear. And secondly, let me show you the results. I mean, my goodness, we're in 7 figures. We're in expanding every year. We're multiplying our impact. So can you please, sir, show me exactly where you do not see the results? And he really was taken aback that I challenged it, because I challenged it not in perception, not in judgment, but in numbers, right? The numbers. Show me. I can show you where we've increased impact. I can show you where we've expanded programs. I can show you where our finances have grown. Show me where I'm not results driven. And there's nothing there. And that we to this day are very good friends. We still work together. So that was a moment. And I'm really glad I had that moment with him, because he was able to see it, and to his credit, recognize and move on from it, and really realize that that was not the right way to handle that. So, I've had a lot of situations like that, but I've always stayed true to being a servant leader. I am voracious. I was a reader. Now I'm a listener of podcasts like yours. I want to hear other leaders. I want to listen to other business leaders, anything, entrepreneurs, nonprofits. I want to know the stories. And I've learned a lot about how to run an organization, how to not run an organization. And I know exactly where I fit in all of that. And, at the end of the day, I go to bed knowing I did the best I could for my organization, and I stayed true to who I am. And so far it's working. So I would just say to never outsource your power, to always know who you are and what you stand for. And if you don't, just keep getting the experience, keep paying attention to how others around you respond and the environment that you're in. Toxic cultures might have something to do with you if you're always in it, right? So look inside and know yourself, self-reflect, and think about, it's not, let your ego stay at the door when you walk in a room, because we really need to be operating from that space of authentic leadership all the time.
Yeah. And I really love that, you were challenging, when you were challenged as a leader about your way of leading, and that whatever the term was, the reality is that what was really being challenged was the fact that you were not results driven. That was really what was being challenged. And your comeback to that was not an emotional one, but it was a leadership comeback, is what I would call it, because it is definitely a responsibility of a leader to deliver on the objectives of the organization, whatever those are, right? But what you were doing is creating a culture of fun with accountability, right? And making sure that the people in that culture, embraced that. And that is why, there's sort of what I call the table stakes of company, which is results, and you've got to drive the organization's objectives. And then there's the people, right? And you were creating a culture of abundance too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because there was that happiness and the joy and the excitement that you have created that leads to the results. my point is you were doing it your way.
That's right.
Okay. And I think the lesson here for the leaders listening is everybody has a different style, right? Everybody has a different way of leading. The key is be authentic. Don't try and be someone else. But what I did love about what you said, though, is you challenge the situation not with judgment, right? That's maturity.
Yeah.
That is what mature leaders do, because you're curious as to why the judgment was there in the first place.
And I was open. If he had shown me, I would have gone home and self-reflected on that. How can I do better?
That's
So
right.
it wasn't like a snarky little, well, you show me then, buddy. But it really was, please show me. Here's what I see. These are the results I see. Please show me where that is lacking.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It was not from that space of like defense.
Yeah.
It was really from like, I'm curious to know more.
Totally. Yeah.
Share that with me.
Yeah. But I think as leaders, it is, again, our responsibility to be curious, and to understand and to be open to possibility, to be open to opportunity, whether it's a lesson, whether it's a new perspective, whatever that might be, which is the way that you approached it was, okay, I am curious about why this is an issue when the results are there. I would love to know more.
Yeah. And you're so right. And really what he saw was the woo. He saw the fun. And it was hard because that's not normal, right? It's not normal. So he had to look past the woohoo and see that the results really were there.
Yeah. And I would say, when people are having fun, people think they're not working hard or they're not delivering results. What you're proving is you can have a fun culture and you can have fun with results.
Right.
And maybe people really like that.
Which is really interesting because that's part of our mission. We provide arts programs in schools so students get out of their seats and learn through having fun. And I thought, wow, we really match our mission to our culture.
Totally. Yeah. What a great story. I mean, that is really phenomenal. I love that because I do think there's this, perception that, oh, you're all having too much fun. Like you can't be working hard. It's a perception that is so wrong.
Right.
I once worked with a phenomenal leader who I still speak to very often. And I am not one of those people that comes into the room and thinks about fun. I just don't, I'm in the room and I'm like, okay, I'm in the zone. Like, okay, what are we doing here? And every meeting, Robin, she brought fun. And to this day, I always say to her, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you did that. Let me tell you, they were productive. They were results driven. But she always brought the creativity.
Love it.
And I love that you're doing that because that is an element I think that is missing a lot of the time.
Yeah, I agree. And I love your point about when you're having fun, it looks like you're not working. The other piece to that too is I encourage my staff to find time. I will literally say to them, find some like bamboo flute music with some water sounds, like you're in a spa waiting room, and put on your favorite socks and get your favorite blanket, make a hot cup of tea. And I want you to write down the top projects this week and how, you're thinking of new ideas. Like it's giving them permission to settle into a creative space where they feel no stress. Because as we all know, you can't really create anything in a moment of stress, right? You don't build the plane while it's flying. It's like you've got to relax. And at first, that was really hard when people would come on staff, like, I'm not working. If I'm over here sitting on my couch with a hot cup of tea, like, that's not working. It's like you feel you have to be grinding and hard and working and pushing the boulder up the hill all day, or you're not, quote, working or being productive. So there is a mindset shift. And I tell my staff all the time, sometimes I just stare out the window for 20 minutes, but you know, the downloads I get, the ideas that come into my mind and the information that flows to me, I'm able to knock out 4 hours of work afterwards. So we can't equate, you know, being at the computer pounding the keys to being productive. Sometimes it's just busy work. And yes, fun is definitely productive.
Yeah, but Robin, you touched on something I think that is actually a very serious conversation, which is that we cannot stifle creativity, and I do think we do in environments, right? You know, an example I gave to someone a couple of weeks ago was, I now, for the first time in my life, understand why a rider goes to a remote spot in the middle of the mountains and writes. When I was writing the book, it was like I'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because the world was quiet. And I would get my most creative work done. And to this day, I'm still doing that because that is, my husband wakes up in the morning and I'm like a mad scientist because like, oh, it's just, oh, and he'd be like, oh, hey, like, calm down, lady. Like, what is going on? I'm telling you, like, what value is in that moment. And I love the fact that you're giving your people permission to be creative. Creativity is innovation.
Right.
It's innovation, okay? And giving people the space and the permission to be creative is really important. It has to be part of our cultures and part of our jobs.
Yeah.
And I love that you're doing that. I just love it.
Scheduling it in too. Like I'll have them put on their calendar, literally, like I'm unavailable, right? I'm having my download moments and just schedule it and do it. And because that will benefit the organization.
Just love it. It's so fantastic. Just really such fantastic nuggets here with you. It's so fun. Yeah.
So
and
fun.
You know, and leadership is fun, right? You know, running an amazing organization, the work you do is just really, I have to just take my hat off to you. It's so wonderful. And I love having leaders like you on our podcast because you're an inspiration to all of us. There's so many gold nuggets that I think our audience is going to take on today. Oh, there goes that sound. Okay, our fun questions are up. All right, so what is your favorite sound?
My favorite sound, I actually mentioned it in this interview, is water. It's water. I am so drawn to waterfalls, babbling brooks, fountains, drips, rain, thunderstorms. That is my most creative when I'm around water sounds. I'm from the Finger Lakes, which might have something to do with that. I'm from one of the Finger Lakes. And when I was up this past summer, I turned on my voice memos and I put my phone in the rocks and I went back and sat on a bed and I let it just record the waves. And in the morning when I meditate, I play my lake sounds. And that's part of just the creativity that just comes to me from the water sounds. So that is honestly my favorite sound in the whole world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love the sea. Oh, the crashing of the waves. Oh, love that.
Yeah.
All right, second question. If you could instantly be an expert in anything, what would it be?
Music. I missed the boat. Love my parents, but somehow they never signed me up for music. Not that it's their fault. I never played the piano. I did learn guitar one year, but that was just silly. I think I wanted to be like David Partridge. Was that his name? Keith? Never like that. The Partridge Family.
Yeah.
And so I would love to be able to read music. To me, that's part of reading. I love books, but somehow music is a mysterious language to me. And I will tell you, this is a beautiful story. When I was in elementary school, we had chorus, and I tried out for chorus every year. And I did not know I was a horrible singer because the music teacher was so brilliant. She created a speaking choir. And so you would audition for chorus, and she would put you either in the chorus or the speaking choir. And both were just amazing. And I would run home and be so proud. I made the speaking choir. And we like chanted. We had the same risers, and we got to go on stage, and at the performance, we chanted the words to whatever we were chanting. And I thought I was just the best performer in the whole world. So kudos to those teachers early in my years who celebrated the fact that I have no musical ability at all. And so I think and it might be because of speaking choir that I actually want to one day be part of the chorus. But music just is something very intriguing to me because it's a whole different language. I love it so much, but I'm always on the receiving end of it, not the like creative producing end of it. And of course, that's what I do. Our nonprofit serves music and other art forms in schools. So it's just such a beautiful thing. I would love to be an expert.
Well, who knows? You know,
You know, hold me to it. Yes.
who knows? I got 14 songs coming up. Maybe we'll have you do some background music. Who knows?
Background speaking? I can speak.
Exactly. Yeah, listen, I love chanting in my music. So there you go. All right. Well, listen, it was so fantastic to have you on the show, and just everything about you, you ooze leadership. You're just such an inspiration and such an example for all of us. So thanks for joining us today, and certainly look forward to more episodes with you in the future.
And that concludes another episode of Leadership Moments. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights in what we shared today. Remember, leadership is not defined solely by titles or positions, but by the choices we make and the moments that shape us.
Embrace the challenges that come your way, for they may be the very moments that propel you toward greatness. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories as well. Connect with us on our website at leadershipmomentspodcast.com or through social media on Instagram at Tracy_Ann Palmer.
And Stacy Castor _. Remember, your leadership moment could be just around the corner, waiting for you to seize it. This is Stacy Castor, and what doesn't challenge you won't change you.
And this is Tracy Ann Palmer. And be the change you wish to see in the world.